Hey friends, I am here at AF1 Racing in Austin, Texas. Today I'm going to take out a Triumph Bonneville T120, and it's a special edition Elvis Presley model. Can you believe that? That's going to be kind of fun. So I'm going to go take a look at it. I'm going to go over some of the stats first before I jump on it, and then I'm going to take it for a cruise. So I'll see you in a bit. Quite a few of the Bonneville T120s. This is the black edition, so got the black exhaust, blacked out engine. Here's another blacked out one, just different color tank. And then again, the icon is the last in line here before we move into the scramblers. Got a good selection of Triumphs here. All right, before we throw a leg over, let's go check out the stats of this bike. All right, all these stats here, I'm not going to go over every single one of them, so you can pause it if you want to check them out. But this bike is a 1200cc parallel twin. It's got about almost 80 horsepower and 77 foot-pounds of torque. It's a 6-speed and does not have a quick shifter. I would not, just my preference, I wouldn't want a quick shifter on this bike. It's just the nature of the bike. I want to use the clutch and shift. All right, as far as the chassis goes, it's got a tubular steel frame. It's got a double-sided swing arm. The front wheel is an 18-inch, rear wheel 17. Front tire is a 100 millimeter, and the back is a 150 millimeter. So the tires are a little bit narrower than, say, like a sport bike. Front suspension, 41 millimeter cartridge forks. Rear suspension, twin RSUs with preload adjustment. Front brakes, we've got the Brembos, and back brakes got the Nissan 2 pistons. All right, and for dimensions and weights, width of the handlebars is 30.7 inches. Height without the mirrors is 43.7 inches. Seat height is 31.1 inch. Wheelbase 57.1 inch. Rake is 25.5 degrees. Trail 4.1 inch. Tank capacity 3.8 US gallons. I wish there was a little bit more on that fuel tank though. But and lastly, the wet weight is 520 pounds, so it's not a light bike, but when you sit on it, the quality, and it just has like a really solid nature, you kind of expect it to be a little heavy. Okay guys, there's the bike. Got my camera, I get all set up here. This is the Elvis Presley Edition, and so here I've got couple of buddies that have these bikes. I've never ridden, but here's my impressions before I even ride this thing. And maybe I'll be a little wrong, I don't know, but I am expecting a very comfortable ride, that I would like to take this bike on some backcountry roads and like cruise through the roads very nimbly and enjoy the environment. That's kind of my impressions of this bike, so let's see if that's the case. I don't expect this bike to be, ripping my arms off or anything like that. But so let's go ahead and jump on this. Okay, so let's turn this guy on. All right, so we got some really traditional analog gauges here with some digital on the bottom to give you some feedback. So right off the bat, for me, this is a very traditional kind of vintage bike, but wrapped in some modern amenities, if you will. Switch gear and everything that I can see in front of me here looks very premium. Look, it looks really solid. It looks expensive. It doesn't look cheap and cheesy. Got the little badging here for Triumph, the Elvis Presley Edition. This is 219 out of 925, so that's pretty cool. So on this side over here, you got your info. The info button is right here, and this you can go through and do like odometer and trips and turn off the traction control and stuff like that. So this bike does have some modern stuff like ABS, traction control, cruise control, which is right here. On this side up here, you got your lights. I don't know if you can really see that. This will do your high beams and flashers, turn signals, horn, cruise control. I said that, info button. That's all. This switch gear, and over here we've got the start and run button, stop button, mode button. So this does come with two ride modes, rain and road. And here you got your hazards. So that's kind of this switch control over here. So I believe all Triumphs you have to have the clutch in to actually start it. There you go. Okay, so it's in neutral. ABS light is flashing. That'll turn off once we get going. So this confirms we're in neutral. We got the neutral light there. So let's get our seatbelt on and head out. So far I'm flat-footing this bike. The seat height is just over 30 inches, and I've got my riding boots on, and I've got about a 30-inch inseam. So I'm flat-footing this very comfortably. Handlebar position is good. Let's get this in first gear. Now starting, I don't know if you can hear it. This is a stock exhaust. It sounds pretty good stock, and if you want this bike to kind of enjoy the environment and, you know, cruise around some backcountry roads and go for Sunday rides and whatnot, you know, maybe you want to just keep the stock pipe. But personally, I would replace that and get some more tones out of this bike. All right, let me check the mirrors here, make sure I can see. All right, here we go. These mirrors dialed in here. There we go. All right, so we close this. It's quite warm. It's already over 90 degrees here. So I want to keep this bike rolling, get some wind therapy. So the seating position is, my knees are pretty much 90-degree angle. Very comfortable. I'm not, I feel that I'm just, you know, I've got shorter arms, I'm a shorter rider, so I just feel just tiny bit that I'm leaning forward to get to the bars, and that's just, you know, again, because I'm kind of short, 5'8". Okay. Okay, so this does not have a quick shifter, and I think the style of bike and what kind of bike this is for me, I just don't really need it. You know, you want to. This is kind of a vintage bike, like I said, wrapped in some, you know, modern amenities. So you kind of want to have that experience of shifting and using the clutch and you know, cruising around. This does have a back tire that's like a 150, so it's kind of a narrow back tire, which is going to allow the bike to kind of, you see here, we can kind of move this bike around pretty cool, a little bit nimble. But it's not like, it's a controlled nimble, so when I push into it, it does go and dip in, but it feels like there's something holding you, like you're not gonna fall or anything like that. Like my bike, if I start whipping it back and forth, it wiggles back and forth like crazy. Let's get around these guys. So recently we had the Distinguished Gentleman ride here in Austin and around the world. If you're not familiar with that, that's where people dress up in vintage clothing and ride motorcycles for men's health issues. And this is the bike to have. You know, I think the Triumph line of bikes is super popular with people that are doing that ride. So this Bonneville 120 would fit nicely into there. All right, so far I'm just cruising, going through the gears. You know, not getting the bike over, you know, just switching the gears at around 3,000 to 4,000 revs, just taking it really easy, getting a feel for the bike. Super comfortable so far, riding position. Not a whole lot of big bumps so far on this road, but the ones that I have hit, oh, here comes some right here. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, nothing. As far as vibration goes, at these speeds, I'm only going about 40 miles an hour. I don't feel any vibration really in the pegs. Handlebars, the mirrors are pretty solid. I don't see them vibrating at all. On the way back, we'll kind of take it on the highway a little bit and see if that changes. Seat is quite comfortable. Now, I'm currently in road mode, and there is a ride mode. I mean, rain mode. twist the throttle a little bit more here. All right, so this has 79 or 80 horsepower. It's a parallel twin 1200cc, and it's got about almost as much torque. I think it's 74 77. I'll put the correct one you know, on the screen here, and we also went over that during the stats part of this video. But I just twisted the throttle a little bit, tiny bit, and sorry about that. I just twisted the throttle a little bit, and I felt it. It took off. Each bike, you know, you just go over horsepower and torque numbers and size of motor, you know, has their own characteristics. And some bikes that are 400 cc's, like when I test rode the Aprilia 457, I was very impressed by that bike, and I assumed that it was going to be kind of lethargic and not exciting, but it moved along quite nicely. And I've been on other bikes that were, you know, 400s that are blah, even bikes that are bigger than that are close to 1,000, that there's just nothing in the throttle. But yeah, see, just sweet. Again, unfortunately, there's too many cars around, but this gauge cluster is really nice. It just has a very premium feel. The bike feels very solid. Again, no vibrations. And you've got plenty of back seat, you know, for a passenger to ride two up. The only thing with this bike is, because the seat is a kind of a flat seat, your passenger is going to be behind you. They're going to be sitting at the same height as you almost, so you got to be careful of headbutt with the helmets. But this is using the clutch, doing some smooth gear transitions, shouldn't be a problem. So far, this bike is meeting exactly kind of how I thought this would be. Just comfortable, fun, you know, wind in your face, no fairing, enjoyment on a motorcycle. I just noticed this does not have auto turn off turn signals, so you gotta remember to turn those off, otherwise you're gonna be blinking down the road. And I like the sound of this motor. Triumphs, I really like the way they rumble a little bit, even with the stock exhaust. But again, I would definitely get an aftermarket exhaust to kind of accentuate that sound. This is kind of fun, Elvis Presley Edition. I had no idea they had one of these, and I'm sure someone that's a motorcycle fan and is also a fan of the Elvis probably picked this up. Yeah, referring back to the stats over there, I was just a little bummed that the tank wasn't a little bigger. This holds, I think, 3.8 gallons of fuel. And if you want to go on some long country road rides out in the back roads there, you know, I'd be hoping that I had a 4.5 gallon tank so I don't have to keep pulling over. Yeah, this bike gets up and goes. I mean, when I want to disappear people, I like to say disappear people. I just get rid of cars, get away from them. It does it as long as I'm in the right gear. It can get up and go. Okay. That's where this 1200cc engine. Now, one might ask, is this a bike for a new rider? Oh, there's some bumps. Nice, it handles them quite nicely. So they do have the T100, which is a smaller engine than this, but everything else is pretty much the same. You could certainly go for that. But the nature of this bike, because it's not scary, you know, with the horsepower and the torque, you could certainly put this in rain mode or even just road mode, and just if you've, you know, are coordinated and don't have balance issues, or, you know, if you're not super afraid of motorcycling, because it is a heavier bike. It's about 520 pounds if memory serves. Yeah, this could be, you know, it could be a first bike, and then you just have it for forever because it's got the bigger motor and you can kind of grow with it as you get used to it. Even though this is a heavier bike at around, like I said, 520, it's not, you know, it doesn't have the high seat. I can flat foot it, so I feel that it's, you know, comfortable to move around. And I guess to, you know, more urban riding, it's fine. Shut that, sorry. You know, when you get more into urban riding and you're a shorter rider and you've got a seat height where you're tippy toeing and stuff, that becomes a little bit more problematic just because of the challenges of parking sometimes when you're dealing with, you know, inner city. Sometimes you've got to move the bike around a lot and you're on your tiptoes and it's, you know, not so confident that you're going to drop it. But if you can flat foot a bike, it's a little easier to handle. And the gauge cluster, I can just look down and see it. I don't have to actually move my head. I can just glance down and it's far enough out in front of me. Yeah, this is the perfect bike for a Sunday afternoon ride. Oh yeah, this is smooth. And I've got, you know, even, it's a naked bike, so I've got even flow. As far as wind goes, just, you know, hitting my arms, chest, face, helmet, everything. And this does have a gauge for fuel. Tells you how much you got left. I think what I got here, 113 miles left in the tank. So this has Brembo brakes. I haven't really tested them yet, but they've, you know, have been doing what I want them to do. I'm using the rear brake right now to hold me in place. Unfortunately, the highway is kind of not completely clogged up, but let's go on the highway here and see how we feel. This is a 6-speed transmission. And here we go, get on the highway. Again, excuse the appearance of our highways, they're always being worked on. Austin population is booming. People are moving here from all over the place, so we're always in a constant flux of expansion and repair and all that fun stuff. Well, I've got these big trucks in front of me, so they're blocking all the wind. But the seating position on this, you're sitting up kind of tall, so you're not leaned over. So you're sitting up taller than cars. So that's kind of nice. It's got a very balanced power between horsepower and torque. So it's kind of, you got a little bit of it all. We're back home here. It's a short ride. All right. Well, thanks, Mr. Bonneville T120. So here we are at the bike. So we've got the more of the Elvis badging here. So it's got the kind of blacked out motor a little bit, but not the blacked out exhaust. It's got chrome there, obviously. And like I said, the seat's pretty flat, so your pillion or your two-up rider is going to be kind of sitting at the same height as you. But it's a solid bike. I really like it. It's very comfortable, and it is that kind of Sunday afternoon ride. Get away from the city, out where there's some more open, twisty, curvy roads, and enjoy the environment. You know, there's those days where I do like to get on my BMW and it's sporty and it has a lot of power, and I, you know, have kind of an anxiety filled ride, you know, going fast and pushing my limits a little bit. And then there's days I, you know, just want to use the clutch and go through the gears and enjoy the environment, kind of get that wind therapy going. But you see here it's got the Brembo brakes, so the brakes are really good, nice and grabby. But that's it right there. Nice bike.